Hi everyone, Lewis here, and today I'm going to bring you guys another look at some more H1Z1 gameplay. There's been a lot of stuff recently. This thing you're seeing right here is the first ever gameplay trailer for H1Z1 made by SOE, and it's probably the most exciting thing which I'm going to be talking about today, but there's not really much to talk about because, I mean, the video speaks for itself. But we do get to see the AR-15 for the first ever time, one of the two guns in the game right now, which are the 1911 and the AR-15. A small bit of a base building, the night time system, and of course some zombies on fire again, because why the hell not? Of course I will have a link to a trailer in the description below, but that's not what I'm going to be talking about today, because who gives a shit if I re-upload a trailer? No one. Go watch it yourself. The thing that I'm going to be talking about, however, is the 12-hour stream, which is actually still happening at the time of me speaking, and that is where we've heard a lot of things which we just haven't heard of before. But regardless, the trailer looks great, and it's definitely the best piece of gameplay we've seen for H1Z1 so far. Will you survive? Probably not. I'm assuming most of you guys are normal human beings and probably don't have time to watch a full 12-hour stream, so what I'm going to be doing is hopefully compiling all of the useful pieces of information from that stream where they've been showing off a lot of gameplay, they've been showing off other people playing the game who have came into the studio, going around talking to various different devs, and as a whole was a lot of stuff we already knew, but also a lot of stuff which we didn't already know, so that is what I'm going to be talking about. The first part I thought was of interest was about half an hour or so long, and it consisted of them going around just introducing all the devs and the devs explaining what their role is actually on H1Z1. So just name off a few of the important things I found from this instead of watching 30 minutes of them probably just saying nothing. They confirmed the addition of wolves in the game. It has already been talked about a bit before, and there was some kind of deer in the stream we did a week ago, but they've now added wolves in the game, which you'll see also in the gameplay later on. So you're actually able to, or the devs are able to manually manipulate the wolf, and I guess for other animals too, to the extent of actually opening and closing their mouth, changing how they growl, or like how their face shows that they're growling, and stuff like that. So really well done stuff, and of course the whole killing animals and the animals killing each other is going to be a big part of the game. But it also confirmed later on, although it's kind of obvious, but it was pretty cool to see it's even in the game right now, is the possibility of finding a fire, lighting it with your torch, which we've already seen in the game, and then cooking the meat. So that's pretty cool that you're able to actually kill animals and do something with them already in such an early part of the game, or an early stage of the game, I guess you could say. And the thing which was cool, which not many people picked up on about the wolves, but it does mean eventually in the game we could see talking wolves, which is pretty cool. That was a joke, by the way. Not a very good joke either, but still, it's a possibility dogs could be talking in the future. Next thing, they went over to talk to one of the art dudes who's showing off one of the new zombies. As you'll know if you've seen the previous week's stream, there was only one zombie model in the game. I'm actually surprised they weren't opting to do it the way Valve did with Left 4 Dead, in that they've got like a bunch of simple models and then they've got variants of those models where you've got like chopped off hands, blood in different locations, just so you're able to make a swarm without having to make millions and millions of models. But it seems like they're going for individual models for each zombie, so this is the second zombie model. I mean, in the future they could make it vary, but either way, the zombie is also looking very pretty, even from a close range. We also got to see two new buildings, the first of which is the Governor's Mansion. So far it seems like we're making pretty much every single building you can see with your eyes enterable, and when I say that I mean every single room within that building as well. But this is the Governor's Mansion, and it consists of 2 floors and also a basement. That's right, a basement. And what does that really mean? Why is that cool? Well, since H1Z1, like you probably already know, is running the Forge Light engine, which was also used for PlanetSide 2, it means interiors are actually dark. So a basement is going to be a pretty good place to hold up. The second building, which I'm not going to talk too much about since there wasn't really too much footage of it, and it wasn't a very early stage, but it's an apartment, so you will have also apartments in the game. Big cities are something we expect in the near future, but right now I haven't seen anything bigger than just a small-ish town. And speaking of barricading, since they were doing a 12-hour stream, that was actually their goal to make before the end of the stream. Since all this footage you'll see right here was in the first 6 or so hours of the stream, I'm sure by the end they do have the barricading fully functional, but you can see the basic principle right here is those little arrows are where the objects would snap to the windows, the doors, etc, etc. So barricading is going to be in the initial alpha release of the game, which is really cool. And on top of that, as we've seen in the previous week's stream, you will also be able to make the conventional house if you don't want to build on top of an already existing house. And also, just on the topic of how good the lighting is with Forge Light, but this kind of demonstrates it pretty well. Of course, you will be able to set pretty much anything on fire, whether it's an actual player's house, another player, a zombie, whatever else. You'll be able to set it on fire, and it will look pretty good. It won't look silly in any way. And if it's dark, it's dark. If it's light, it's light. If it's indoors, it's dark. It just makes sense. It's how it should be. Another thing which we were shown for the first time was the backpack models, which are now in the game. It might be a bit weird. Lewis, why the hell are you talking about backpacks? No one really gives a shit. Well, you can see there's numerous different colours of backpacks, which is truly amazing. And on top of that, the reason I'm talking about them is because of the way the loot drops, at least right now. It might change in the future. I don't think it'll ever be like the way it works with DayZ, where you've got a vicinity menu and then you can see all the different parts and all the different inventory slots. I don't think the looting system will ever be like that in H1Z1, but who the hell knows, it could be. But basically, when you die, a backpack drops on the floor, and you're able to loot it. Again, you'll see that later in the gameplay video. I'm just going through this chronologically right now, because that makes sense. But regardless, if you're wondering how does the looting system work once you've killed a player, that's how it works. It's a backpack dropped, and it could change in the future, but right now, it does the job. That was pretty much it for the tour around the office. Still some pretty cool stuff to be shown, considering it's coming out in 2 weeks. I'm surprised a lot of the stuff is even in. I thought it would just be core stuff, and the core stuff is there, but there's also some stuff on top of it, like, you know, barricading stuff up. That's pretty good, and vehicles and stuff like that. But moving on to the next thing, which is a rather long segment of them showing off some gameplay. So I'm going to be talking more specifically again, of course, because no one cares about stuff you already know about. I'm going to be talking about stuff which you probably didn't know about. So the first thing you'll notice if you did watch the previous week's stream, I know I keep on saying that, but you probably should have seen it already. But there's some changes around the world. The inventory system has been changed a bit. You'll see some more important information in the top left of the inventory. Still, it is the developer kind of inventory. You can't expect some real inventory eventually. When we were going around, they did show that there was a guy who was actually working on inventory, and since they have worked on other games in the past, like EverQuest, etc., that should all be good. But one of the biggest things is when you look inside houses, you'll see a lot of objects turn white when you look at them. It reminds me a lot of Project Zomboid in that you're able to pretty much loot any of these objects, put stuff inside them, take stuff out of them. Not really sure if stuff's gonna, or at least too much stuff is gonna spawn inside them when the server... Wait, the server doesn't go up because it's an MMO. Yeah, I didn't actually mention that either last time, but because it's an MMO, I completely forgot, but the servers never go down. So loot's gonna respawn somewhere or another, but still, the point remains, you know, what kind of loot is actually gonna spawn in those? I don't know, but still, it's gonna make it so when you go through a city, there's a lot of loot, and I don't know if it's just me, but that's one of the things that I love the most about games like this. Just going through a city and just seeing what you find. It sounds really shit, but when there's a lot of stuff to find, you get a bit excited from a lot of those things, don't you? This right here is something I was talking about earlier. You're able to access the inventory. I mean, it's the same for every object. If it's white, then you can go inside it. In this case, it's a fireplace, which you just place down. You're able to light it along with pretty much everything else. Like, again, I mentioned before. Then access the inventory again, put the meat in, or leave the meat in before, and then kaboom, it's cooked. And obviously if you kill the animals as well, then you'll be able to get the meat from them, then put them in the fires inside your base or wherever else. Since we've seen so much gameplay today as well, it kind of gives you a decent idea as to what the main resources are going to be. You are able to chop down trees and get wood from those, so that is going to be very easy to find. And eventually there are going to be tree stumps, obviously when you chop them down. Right now, you chop them down with a pickaxe, but just, well, not a pickaxe, a hatchet even. And they disappear, and you get the stuff inside the inventory, but also metal is a big part. So, similar to, I guess you could compare to Epoch, there's going to be different levels of barricading. You could have a lot of wood and have a good barricade, you could have a small amount of wood and a shit barricade, you could have a metal barricade instead. It just depends on what you get your hands on. And you will see from time to time, although it wasn't shown too much here, but loot does spawn in places which aren't cabinets, so you will find it on top of little trays, you will find it on top of worktops, things like food, water, and a bunch of other stuff, and a lot of items which really you have to combine with other items to make them into something. So crafting is going to be a really big part. I mean, you've seen that massive base at the start in the trailer. That kind of shows how the crafting is going to be a big part, because you're going to be able to make stuff like that. And not that it's a big surprise, but I thought this was funny when watching it. But if you want to be a complete dick and kill fresh spawns, then feel free to do so. This guy right here, he puts up his hands and he just doesn't give a shit. He just kills them. And this also demonstrates what I was talking about before with the backpacks, and also again the highlighting in that you're able to just look inside the backpack and get all the stuff from there. You can see bows, a bunch of weird looking stuff, and it is very Rust-esque right now, but who knows, it could change in the future. And also, if killing players isn't enough, then you can sneak up on wildlife like deers, wolves, etc, rabbits, whatever, and you can punch them in the bum. Don't really know why you do that, but you know you're going to see some people killing Bambi in this game, and when you see them kill Bambi, you're going to kill them. Or at least that's what I would do. Unless you're, you know, actually getting some food from him. That guy just seemed like he was maliciously attacking that deer. Like, what the fuck's up with that? And also, you might have noticed the player was walking, or the animation was too fast compared to how fast he was going. Not really a big deal. It could probably be sorted out. It's just animation going a bit too fast. Using the magical power of dev hacks, we get to see the inventory system a bit more, and there is things like flashlight hats in the game, which is what you just put on. Right now, they do have the same model as the other hat, but if you do put them on, then you're able to have a flashlight, which is good. Right now, there's no normal flashlight in the game. The only light sources that we know of is a flashlight hat and the actual flame torch, not a torch. So, those are the two right now, but still, it's nice to see that you've got a nice looking hat. I did like the headlight, or the headlamps even on DayZ, but the problem with those was they were super narrow. But you can see this one isn't so narrow, so if it is nighttime, then it should do a job pretty good if you don't have NVGs. The inventory system so far doesn't look anywhere near as deep as it is in DayZ, and I know I keep saying it over and over again, but it could change in the future. Right now, it seems like the backpack is the biggest determiner of how big your inventory slots actually are. But other than that, the cosmetics right now are kind of on a low. But that can be changed very quickly if a bunch of artists just go at it, you know, and put a bunch of assets into the game, decide whether they want to spawn, and yeah. And also, that thing I was showing you ages ago, and it's completely off topic, but the governor's mansion, along with every other building, will eventually be barricadable. So if you've got a big house and you barricaded it, that means you're a pretty cool dude. And of course, with that barricade as well on the house, you can also put a perimeter around, put some lights somewhere, and also they were actually talking about very briefly that one of the guys was working on making cosmetics or decals, I guess you could say, decals on the wall which are persistent. So being able to spray paint on walls isn't out of the question. But I think that's pretty much it for the important stuff I found from the stream. Like I mentioned, I will have a link to a trailer as well as the different segments of a stream in the description below, although there is a lot of them, so I wouldn't recommend watching through a full 12 hours. A lot of it is not really too useful information, which is why I made this video. But yeah, anyway, thanks a lot for watching. As usual, feel free to tell me what you guys think of H1Z1. It is still due to release in 2 to 3 weeks-ish, and I'd say although there is still a lot of bugs in it, it hasn't really been in development for too long, and I keep on saying it over and over again, and I just say shit over and over again. That's just what I do. But, you know, it's SOE, we've got the money, we've got the engine, we just need to make it not shit. So, we'll see what happens very soon when people are able to play it. Like I said, tell me what you guys think. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and all good stuff. And I'll see you guys next time.